If the weight is stalling, either they're doing something wrong or I've planned something wrong. It's literally as simple as that. So that's when we then would have a conversation, they begin to open up. I had a fighter that's weight was stalling and I could not work out for the life of me what's going on. I was looking at his heart rate data, everything's spot on. He's sending me photos of all his meals, perfect. And I was thinking, why is he not losing any weight? And he was like, oh, I've just been having an oat milk latte. And I was like, okay, how many? And he was like 5 a day.
What supplements are you using with your clients?
I'm not a massive fan of just chucking a load of supplements at a boxer, get the diet right first and then sort of look at supplements. Magnesiums like ZMAs, ashwagandha, theanine, which is an amino acid which helps with sleep quality. Can't remember the last time I did the first podcast. You have to remind me.
It's been years. It's been
about 18 months?
Year and a half?
Yeah, year and a half.
So much has changed.
So yeah, a lot's changed in that time. So keeping busy, still working with pro boxers, more I guess high caliber ones, and getting more and more experience each week on the sort of nutrition front in the trenches. But yeah, been busy and building the business and growing, mate. So
it's going.
And obviously
great.
Your podcast as well. You know, what season are we on now? Season 4?
This is season 4, yeah.
Season 4, so that's growing as well. So yeah, it's all going in the right direction, mate.
Yeah, well, obviously you launched your app, and I've had an opportunity. You did a body fat test on me, and you did some work with me, which was great. So it's going to make this podcast a bit better because I actually know what you do.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, obviously you've done so much and you've grown so much in the last year and a half. It's incredible to see. Just you started off with Mikey, a very big name early on, and all of a sudden you're having to turn down big names because you haven't got enough time.
Yeah, it's a catch-22, Ash, mate. It's like you know it yourself when there's only so much one person can do with X amount of time and stress, and so it's about picking the right people. And I think now I'm in a position where me personally, I just want to work with the people that, one, I get on with, and then two, actually want to achieve things. Because I think quite a few people want to say they want to do things for, social media and stuff like that, but they actually don't want to do it. So for me, it's just all about the person that's sat in front of me. Can I work with them? Do we get on? And if they give me 100%, I give them 100%, and we become friends and support each other on the way. So, yeah.
And it shows, and I'm pretty sure you've worked with people that have earned pretty much every single title now, haven't you? From the ground up.
The only one is World, but hopefully I get that at the end of this year. That's what I'm hoping.
It's just a matter of time, isn't it?
It's only a matter of time, but like I said, like you said there, people winning titles, I say I'm quite humble and saying I don't really have anything to do with that. If I was to come and work with someone that wins a world title, it's a tiny percentage that I'm adding to that and helping them achieve. It's obviously all the boxer and their hard work, but yeah, I'd love to. One of the goals I set myself is to work with someone just for my own personal and that experience of working with someone that would win a world title, male or female.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
And the quality of work, obviously, you want to actually dedicate. Like if, for example, the Errol Spence camp with Terence Crawford, you were like, I want to be like that nutritionist. You want to be in the camp, cooking their food every day, weighing it all out, you being there next to them the whole way. And that's good. I think that's the right mindset as a nutritionist. As soon as you have the right talent come on board with the big enough fight, then it's going to happen, And once you do it once, things are going to obviously spiral. But it's good that you was a chef before you was a nutritionist, and you've just got you got everything going for you.
I tell you what's funny. One of my friends asked me, literally yesterday actually, said, where do you want to be in 10 years' time? And I was a bit like, that's a bit of a... So if I asked you that question, where do you want to be in 10 years' time? You'd probably be like, I have no idea.
10 years, that's quite a stretch. 5 years is
5
good.
years is better. 10 years is like, wow, okay. But what you said there is something that I thought about, is that's definitely the sort of trajectory and what I'd love to do. Because like you said, I've been a chef. Living in camp, being abroad, or being away in America, or where even in the UK, being away in that training camp and controlling the nutrition every day, cooking, that's what I'm passionate about. And prepping all the food, weighing everything out, being at the training sessions, being in the gym, documenting that whole experience. That is a massive goal for me. I've had little tastes of it as being away in training camps for maybe 2-3 weeks, or the fight weeks have been abroad, America, places in the UK, abroad. But to do a full camp, and be a live-in chef and nutritionist, not just a chef, combining the two, that's the dream. So. And hit Errol Spence up after this.
Yeah. As a fighter, how important is it, do you think, for them to have that not as a stress anymore. Would you say it benefits them a lot? I know you said it's just a small percentage to their world title fight, but surely if you're there taking that stress off them every day and the food's in front of them and they're just doing what they're told, surely that is a big weight off of their shoulders. Instead of them having to think about that, they can focus on the big job at hand.
Yeah, and not even world level, to be fair. Like, I have fighters that are, English title, British level, that they're lucky enough to either have, a performance chef via meal prep, or their wives or girlfriends cook for them. And even then, I supply like the plan and this is what you need to do. And then their wives collaborate with me and they cook the meals, and all the boxer needs to do is train really hard, do what their trainer says, and then come home, and then there's no, time wasted shopping, time after training where they're missing that acute recovery window. They come home, they eat their food or their post-training smoothie, shake, whatever it is, and then they have their meals, and then it's just all done for them. And they haven't even got to think about it. They've just got to front the money up and pay for the online shop. But that's all that they need to worry about. And that stress and that time is crucial, is in the time that they would spend doing that. It could be 6, 7, 8, 9 hours a week, having to plan what they're going to eat. Is it right? They're not too sure because they don't know. Obviously, cooking the food as well, finding the time to do that out of their training. It's just less recovery time, less rest, less training time. So, yeah, it makes a big, big difference not having that stress.
And if it's 9 hours a week and they're doing it for 12 weeks, that is a lot of hours, isn't it? When it starts adding up.
My name is Dennis Dominus McCann, professional boxer for Frank Moore and MTK Global. This is Fortress Boxing. A lot more protection. It's a no-brainer. Around your thumbs, around your knuckles, around my wrist. That's exactly where I have the problems at. They're very compact, so I feel like I'm punching hard with them on as well. And I feel like when you got sparring 14, 16 ounce gloves, the smaller wraps can't really. They're too small for the gloves. That makes sense. So these are a bit bigger, and they're getting the gloves a bit more. They're making them more compact. 1, 2, hook, go.
Your view on like the pre-packaged meals, pre-cooked and everything. Are you working with anyone at the moment? Is it good? Do you recommend someone to get like a meal prep company instead of cooking themselves?
Yeah, so I sit on kind of like two sides of the fence of this one, because cooking for yourself, as you know exactly what's going into that food. So you can take accountability, which a lot of athletes don't do. They don't take accountability for what they actually put in their body in terms of supplements, fluid, food, stuff that they do, write stuff down. They don't take enough accountability. Whereas when you cook your food, you're obviously cooking it, so you've got complete accountability, and you have to hold your hands up and say, yeah, I cooked that, I ate that. The thing is with meal preps, a lot of them from previous experience, and I've probably worked with 6, 7 meal prep companies over my time. They're obviously big companies, and their aim is to make money. That's obvious. And they say that they'll do bespoke meals, and it's not like a dig at anyone, but they say that they're going to make, bespoke meals, but they're not. Mm-hmm. They don't do bespoke meals. They just do the ones off the menu.
Yeah.
And if from me, a nutritionist, say for example, I'm prescribing a 60 kilo fighter a 400 calorie lunch, and it's actually 650 calories, like you said, over the compound effect of a camp, that's 200 calories a day. That's like nearly 1,500 calories a week. And then over 10 weeks, that's 10,000 calories in the bank that we're not accounting for. So that's a big difference. And that could be like 3 kilos. Mm-hmm. So it sounds stupid, but, some meal prep companies, they're not like bang on the money. I'm fortunate enough now, I've done my searching. There's a couple of meal prep companies that I still do use. Fuel Hub is one. So I've got a couple of athletes that still use them just because they've used them from the get-go, and it's just easy, like they've got a good relationship with them. But I've recently this year linked up with a guy that's a performance chef based in Greater Yarmouth, Norwich way. He looks after one of my fighters, Mikey Webber-Kane, who's fighting for a Southern Area title. Just drop that in there.
When's that fight?
14th of October.
Oh, okay, not long.
Yeah, so the guy's called Justin. He's got a company called Box Nutritional Meal Prep. And we're trying to grow it so that he works with the fighters on a bespoke basis. So any fighters that I've got that need, meal prep delivered to them, either in fight week, post weigh-in, or throughout the camp, I do the bespoke meal. I say, this is what this individual needs to have. I said, Jack, no problem. As long as it's a small number of fighters, we can do it. Makes them all up, delivers them, and then fight week, he hand delivers them as well. So there's no issues with, the delivery's not going to turn up. Personally, delivers it.
Brilliant.
So yeah, that's working really well.
That's so good. And I guess so your view on nutrition in general, for the championship fighters, it is all of the small little goals, being accurate, being accountable for the whole way through camp. You don't want someone saying, oh yeah, I had about this, you know, maybe putting in an extra 2 glugs of olive oil every day in your pan. It's going to add up, isn't it?
Yeah. I remember being in the gym, in Billy Rumble's gym down in Kent a couple of weeks ago. And I was sat there with the boys that I work with. There's 4 of them that I work with, and Tyrone King said to me, he said, "Oh, yeah, I've been putting in an extra Biscoff biscuit in my oats or whatever." And I was like, "You've done what?" But yeah, you're right. In terms of that, it is so important to be 100% committed. And from my experience, it is generally like the title fights where something just goes in their mind, where maybe when they had a 6-rounder, they were 70% compliant, but all of a sudden when they've got an English title fight, they're just like 100%. And I was like, oh, why were you not 100% before? Oh yeah, no, Jack, I got something to tell you. I wasn't 100% when we did that camp. Oh, okay. But when they get a title fight, like you said, those small margins with nutrition really make a massive, massive difference. And it's also cheating yourself. And if you're walking into the ring or you're walking into a weigh-in, press conference, fight, whatever, for a title fight, and you know that you've cut corners, it's a big no-no.
That's such a big thing with fighters, isn't it? If you know you've done everything possible, then you have that confidence on fight day, and you must see it with people that have not cut corners. Like Martin McDonough, a great example. He's got his fight coming up. Like, you know full well he takes it seriously. He's all in, and it shows. You know, he's won. This is his biggest. What title is it he's fighting for now?
I think it's WBA Intercontinental,
and that puts him high up in the rankings, right?
top 20, top 15
Top
in the
20.
WBA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously, the
So
biggest
people
fight
have
of
fought
his
for
life.
IBO Intercontinentals and then they've got an IBO world title after it. I'm not saying that would happen to him, but I'm saying it does put you like really high in the rankings. So yeah, it's gone from Southern area to sort of opportunity and then top 15. So
Brilliant. So let's talk about, briefly, if you don't mind, from starting to have a client, let's say you've just got someone like me, an average person,
Yeah.
amateur boxer, whatever, all the way to their fight. What's the process? What do you do? What's the questions you ask at first?
yeah.
Can you go into some details on that?
Sure. So let's take a professional boxer that would, reach out and I'd start working with. The first things first is obviously if they're sort of, I say within 2 hours, 2.5 hours, I'd meet up with them at the start of their camp. I like to have a good relationship with the boxer that I work with and put a face to the name and we get to know each other. And just to bank that day at the start of the 8 weeks or 9 weeks, where I'm going to spend a whole day basically traveling, seeing them, doing their body composition assessments, asking all of those important questions, possibly getting their bloods tested as well, which I'd send them to a clinic to get done. But spending that process where I really get as much information as possible at that starting point, meet the coach, ask them how they're going to, train for this fight, how they're going to split the camp up into different phases, etc., etc. Come away, obviously then build their nutrition plan off the back of that, depending on their training schedule and what they need to achieve and what time frame. Usually it's obviously dictated by how much weight they need to lose. That's obviously the main factor, plus performance. So we'll work backwards. So we'll see, okay, well, they need to lose X amount of weight in X time frame. How is this going to set up this nutrition plan? And then really just build the plan from there, bespoke to them. And like I said, if they've got the meal prep, I can feed to them what they need to have at what times, and then if they're lucky enough, they got their wives or girlfriends to make the food, and then if not, then they've got to do it.
Do you ever adapt the plans that you make with people? Like maybe halfway through, do you ever sort of revise it and be like, oh, you've lost a lot of weight, this week, we're going to add an extra meal in, or we're going to do this?
Yeah, the way I like to structure it is because I think when I started, I was very conscious of wanting to like be different and wow people. Be like, oh, well, Jack does this and Jack does that, it's kind of a difficult one because the more and more I've worked with fighters and been around it and dieted myself, it needs to be simple. So for example, let's use Martin McDonough's example. So when he's got a sparring day, which is twice a week, I'll say this is what you need to have on this day. Obviously more calories, more energy, more carbohydrates in and around sparring, more recovery stuff, more antioxidants and stuff like that because you're going to be more inflamed. So that's 2 days of the week, and I say that's your template, that's what you need to do on sparring day. If 3 weeks in, he said, like, we need to change a few things, we'll tweak a few things based on feedback. Lower days, we might have a plan for that, and then we might have a plan for like a rest day, and we might have another plan for an active recovery day. So it's like maybe like 4 or 5 different plans. Do you know what I mean? It's not like one plan. We need to lose weight, 1,700 calories. This is your macros. There's your protein. Just do that. It's much more like, okay, well, what could we get out of that session? Okay, well, you're doing a high conditioning session. Why don't we, if you need to lose a bit of muscle, or you might need to go into like, you might be doing a zone 2 low intensity run the following morning. Why don't we pull carbohydrates from that meal in the evening and maybe just give you a recovery smoothie at 9 p.m. at night, and then you can then do your next session in a low intensity state, lose a bit of muscle if they need to lose a little bit of muscle mass. So it's honestly, nutrition is simple to a degree, but it's so individualized. You have to take that approach with, especially when you're working with professionals. So.
Yeah. And do you find people with different body types or different things that they react differently to what you give them? Like someone might just lose a lot more weight quickly as imagined with the tests that you did early on. Obviously, for example, with me, you tested all my body fat. You gave me a double training day, a single training day, and a rest day split of food with different meals, which was brilliant. And everything was just going bang on. But do you ever have people that maybe they're not losing the weight, but they are in the deficit, or there's other issues, or does it all sort of even out as the weeks go on?
Yeah, well, obviously, like you said there, everybody's different, right? So we have had points where, fighters' weights plateaued, and that's when, there seems to be this sort of like crazy panic that goes on. When it gets to that point, that's obviously where you need to make an intervention. Something is not working. So if the weight is stalling, either they're doing something wrong or I've planned something wrong. It's literally as simple as that. So that's when we would then have a conversation. They begin to open up. Their stress levels are super high. They've been overtraining, so they're holding onto a bit of water. They're a bit inflamed. Their set point might be now different, so they need to drop their calories, or we need to add in some more. Maybe they're becoming more efficient. So, for example, when I say this, I've had athletes that at the start of a camp have done a baseline 5K, and they've burnt, say, for example, 350 calories. Now they're 6 weeks in and they're much, much fitter. They're using less energy to do the same work. They might be burning 180 calories doing that run. Mm-hmm. So they're just expending less energy. So that's obviously as their body's getting more efficient, they get fitter, they need less calories and their output is less. So the nutrition plan has to change, which sucks, but that's just how it happens,
Yeah.
So yeah, we always that's when the communication is crucial and saying like, listen, we need to have an honest chat here. I had a fighter, I don't know if I said it on the podcast before, I don't think I did. I had a fighter that's weight was stalling and I could not work out for the life of me what's going on. I was looking at his heart rate data. You could literally see he's wearing in every session. This is how much energy expended per week. I was like, brilliant. This is where his calories are set. He's got his meal preps. Everything's spot on. He's sending me photos of all his meals. Perfect. And his missus did all of his cooking for him. And I was thinking, why is he not losing any weight? And he was like, I've just been having an oat milk latte. And I was like, okay, how many? And he was like 5 a day. From Pret, I was like, you have 5 oat milk lattes a day, and I showed him screenshotted the menu, and I was like, that's how much calories is in. I think he was getting caramel ones as well. But this is how much calories is in. How many calories is in a.
How many was it? About 250?
Yeah, it was about 250, 270, and I was like, you have 5 of them. It's 1,000 calories a day. I was like, you may as well have gone to creams or something.
Yeah. Wow. You don't account for the little things, especially liquid calories. It's very easy to go to a Starbucks and not really look at what you're ordering. But black coffee as well, people don't like it because it can stain your teeth or obviously it's not as tasty. But what would you recommend to certain fighters that are listening? What type of things should they do to cut their calories? Would you say maybe don't consume liquid calories as much like the oat lattes? Focus a little bit more on having good whole balanced food diet?
Just try and keep this mantra or this thought process of just keeping it as kind of quote unquote clean or as natural as possible, because that way you're just eliminating all chance of adding any of those extra things in. Say for example, if you're one of the biggest things I see, to be fair, and I've sort of stopped doing it now, but spreads in porridge. Yeah, it tastes great, but you really having 20 grams of peanut butter? Really? Are you actually? Probably having more 40 grams. And it sounds silly, but that adds up over the course of, a camp. So that's where the weighing the food, it's mundane, but it's part of the process of being an elite athlete. It's different for someone that's just general public and they just want to have you can just have a teaspoon of peanut butter. Mm-hmm. You don't really need to weigh it out as long as you're focusing on good habits and eating correctly and training properly. You'll achieve your health and fitness goals. That's how simple it is, really, in reality. But for fighters that are chasing those percentages, it's all about being professional as well. And like you said there, the biggest thing with fighters is the psychology and the mindset. And having that thing where you've got to weigh your food out, you've got to make sure everything's spot on, you've got to hit numbers, you've got to do this and tick boxes. That's all there and part of the psychology of when they fight. They've not cut any corners, which is what we touched on earlier. So
Yeah, brilliant. And
I've kind of just completely ignored your question.
No,
Like
it's-
low things we can do to pull calories is obviously having things like black coffee, which you got here. It's not a latte. Iced black coffees as well, or like an iced black coffee with just like a touch of oat milk just to make it a little bit creamy. Some sugar-free syrup. It's probably about like 40 calories. Have that in fight week as well as like a little sweet treat. Counts towards your fluid intake. So it's about going to places and thinking like, right, I'm fighting for a British title. I know I need to lose weight. I don't want to cheat the plan. I want to be professional. What's the alternative I can have? You know, it's little things like that.
And it's not boring either, because you do put in your meal plans with people. There's a lot of times that, like you say, if you're eating chicken and rice and broccoli every day, you're going to get very bored. You do still give people the balance of they can have their fruits, they can have like raspberries and chocolate protein and yogurt and Weetabix, and they can still have good hearty food, ice cream every now and then. Like you don't obviously eliminate foods that could be seen as bad to the average eye. Someone might look at a nutritionist and say, oh, you're prescribing Halo Top ice cream and chocolate Weetabix, you know, like surely that's not as healthy as someone having plain oats or whatever. So what makes you have that practice and that balance where they're still in their calories, and is it just through practice of knowing what sticks with people and what lasts long term instead of a short fix?
Yeah, because, well, the main thing, I guess, is that humans are not robots. And if I was living in a camp, I would be obviously making their meals from scratch and but you got to remember that these are guys that are cooking for themselves and it needs to be easy. So instead of getting them to make, you know, some frozen dark chocolate dipped strawberries and putting them in the freezer, they're not going to do it. So we need to have alternatives, like you said, like, you know, eat a mess, or, you know, like you said there, the low calorie ice creams and, you know, apple sort of baked yogurt with like cherries and stuff like that, just to make it more exciting. But including those foods that they enjoy into their daily diet is going to make the fight camp so much more or less stressful, because they're enjoying the foods they're eating. They're looking at every meal and they're thinking like, I actually don't feel like I'm on diet. And I'd say that that's probably the biggest thing that the fighters that I work with or worked with have said to me, is that I don't even feel like I'm dieting. And the more and more and more I'm speaking to them now after their fights, because like I said, I'm friends with pretty much all of my clients, so we talk after their fights, like there's no agenda. We just have a chat as friends after their fights, you know, when they're out of camp. They say, Jack, I don't even want to eat. I had a screenshot of all this stuff that I wanted to go and eat in London. I had a day where I had a pizza, and then Monday I was back in the gym and I was making that recipe we were doing in camp, and I don't even want those foods but then I think about it, the more that you deprive yourself in camp, so if you did a really drastic weight cut and it was really aggressive and you're doing a massive calorie deficit, your body will want to eat that back and get back to that point. So it's going to have that hedonic urge to want to soak those foods up out of camp. So you always find that the fighters that don't do the fight camps and don't do their nutrition properly and don't give themselves enough time, they're the ones that do that out of camp and then make the next camp harder. There was a study that they did at Liverpool. John Moore's following an athlete, I think it was Rocky Fielding, and they measured his, like, I'll send you the link, you can put it in the footnotes, but they basically measured like his fat overshoot out of camp. So it was like, as his career went on, he was obviously starting the say, for example, I don't know the actual data, but say, for example, he was starting the camp at 90, and then the next one he was starting it at 91, and then the next one he's starting it at 92. So there's obviously something going on there with, you know, that response after the fight. And it's such a crucial period to get into fighters. And I think the ones that have longevity in the sport and want to achieve world titles, British titles, etc., those guys are going to be the ones that take control of their nutrition the week after their fight, not just when the fight date gets announced.
Well, and also, like you said, if you don't do it drastically and you have it correct throughout the camp, then obviously you have less chance of actually, well, the actual hormones involved, is it ghrelin? The hormone ghrelin? So that will naturally spike as soon as it's all over anyway. So if it's not been suppressed too much during camp, like what you do with fighters, then it's not going to spike. So naturally, your body's going to be absolutely fine. And I'm guessing if you want longevity, like you're saying, if you want to be like a Jorge Linares who's still fighting at, was he 37?
And most importantly, still making money.
And still making money. Joel McIntyre, great example.
Yeah.
You know, he lives the life of a fighter. Eats very well, and he's quite old now, isn't he?
36.
36. Yeah. But you got these fighters that are in their mid to late 30s, doing great, still in fit, and it's down to their diet, it's down to their training. And I know you say you're just that little percentage, but to a lot of fighters, that's probably half the battle in camp. It's trying to fuel yourself, trying to recover, trying to make weight. It's probably one of the biggest battles, more than the actual boxing training they have to do to fight someone.
Yeah. I think if you lined 20 boxers up behind us and you asked them what the biggest struggle of their fight camp is, they would say the diet. Mm-hmm. Honest to God. Because they enjoy the training, they love it. It's an escape from, you know yourself that the boxing and training is an escape from other walks of life. It's not sat doing a bench press and then going on your phone between sets. It's phone away from everyone, with your mates, gym mates, people that you get on with, training, releasing them endorphins, letting anger out, becoming better, growing. So the training is never an issue. Yeah, it's hard, but you know, you love doing intervals, don't you? The feeling you get after it, and you love sparring and stuff. So the hard part is not being able to socialise with your friends and go out for food, not being able to have these meals and stuff.
That's another big topic, because you even said to me when I tried taking seriously for like the first 3-4 weeks, you were like, if you want to go out for a meal, go out for a meal. It's fine. Like you don't have to fully deprive yourself. To hear that from a nutritionist, to say you can go and eat out, just get back to the schedule, get back to the plan, it's going to be okay. A lot of people feel like they can't and they'll be cutting a corner.
Yeah.
But having that balance and knowing that you're still doing the 90% of it right, and you've gone and treated yourself, that really helped me because
psychologically.
100%. Because I've not really said it on here, but after losing a family member, I ballooned up in weight. That's when I've reached out to you, and I just said, look, I just want to lose sort of 5 kilos, 6 kilos, and you met me within a week or two, and within 2 months from that, I was down to a healthy weight, and I sort of laid off it because I was back to normal. And it was great, you know, having that structured plan that you gave me, as well as me enjoying life and still being able to go and eat, you know, like a burger. I think we went out for chicken burgers or something one night or whatever. I don't even eat burgers, but it was good. It was nice. Yeah, I did then, and I enjoyed it. And, you know, got straight back to it, like you said, and didn't feel guilty, didn't feel bad. And I'm sure that you've probably got fighters that they're very sociable people. Some of these pros, you know, even if they're a bigger name, they're constantly around celebrations going on, birthdays.
Yeah.
You know, you've always got all of these everyday life things that you have to deal with.
And I have to say as well, summer makes a big difference. So in winter, when it's darker and the only thing to do is train, go home, go to bed, really, when it's summer and you're training and it's 32 degrees in the gym and you burn more calories and you lose more sweat and people are having barbecues, everyone's getting married. So imagine if you're fighting on the 28th of August and you start your camp at the start of June. Think how many social occasions and things that you're going to miss and the things that are going to come up in that time period.
What's your view on that? Would you still miss them? Would you attend and maybe try and have a good balance?
I'm going to answer your question in 2 parts. The first part is it depends. So it depends how pushed the fighter is for the weight. So if there's someone that we really need to hit these numbers, like, you know, I had it with Martin, the first camp we had together. I said, yep, we can do this lightweight, but it's not a case of you can do this 80%. I said, you have to do everything that I say to make this weight. End of story. Everything your S&C coach tells you to do, you have to do it. You have to, otherwise you're not going to do it. So when you say use those words, it's like, oh, okay. Mm-hmm. It depends, like I said, on how they're going to make the weight. The fighters that maybe aren't so pushed for the weight.
Do you have a lot of fighters that weight's not really an issue, it's more performance?
And I'll give an example, I'll tell you a story. So I work with Liam Davies, you know, the super bantamweight British European champion. And usually he used to do 6-7 weeks with me. So he gets 7 weeks out, Jack, right, let's get meet up, let's do this, da da da. He said to me, I'm fighting Jason Cunningham and I want to do 10 weeks. I know about it now. So what's the point in waiting 7 weeks, 6 weeks to do everything properly? I don't want to do everything properly 10 weeks out, you know? I said, brilliant, that's fantastic. It means we can get down, we can make the calorie deficit less aggressive. So I said, you can have Saturday brunch, you can go out at the weekends, have a bit of food with your Mrs. Sam. And then I said, when it gets closer to the fight, you'll be lower in weight. So the fight week, we can give you more food and we can put a little bit more muscle mass on. And I think the difference in him, if I show you after this, the 3 photos from the camps, how
if you
he
send
looked,
them over, I can put them
Yeah?
on the podcast.
how he looked in the weigh-in for his last fight against Cunningham. I even had someone from his gym that started working with me say it yesterday. He said he was just in like phenomenal shape. And like I said, that's effort to him because he trains so hard. His S&C coach, his dad obviously, and obviously his nutrition. But everything coming together, all of those things gelling, meant that he had a much more, less stressful camp. The fight week, I was able to up his, say for example, I think I upped his carbohydrate intake from like 30 grams from the first time to like 120 or something.
Wow.
So he was eating like before training in fight week. He had like a Nando's on the Sunday before fight week. So this is like what, 5 days out from the weigh-in?
Mm-hmm.
Sunday, the Sunday before the weigh-in. And yeah, looked so much healthier on the scale. So just had a better camp. He enjoyed social occasions, was pretty much going out for breakfast and stuff every weekend, just dropping me a message, being like, is it cool for me to go for it? I was like, yeah, of course it is. Like your weight's in a perfect position.
Would you recommend fighters then to get ahead of the weight as soon as possible for fight camps then, just for that reason?
Yeah,
him
but
having that extra 3 weeks, it sounds like it was
because he
so
was
much more
training for
beneficial.
4 weeks anyway. So what's the point in just winging your nutrition for like 3-4 weeks when you're putting all that effort into the training? You're just basically not wasting a month. I wouldn't be so like straight down the line saying that, but
You're not being as optimal.
yeah, you're not chasing them percentages, And he'll probably admit, if you spoke to him, that was probably the best camp he had because he started everything earlier. Training as well, started training earlier. We train all year round anyway, but I just think, but it's always the carrot. There's always that fight or that opportunity that gets people, proper onto it professional wise. It's what's the reward, isn't it? Is always the motivation.
When
the
you have that
motivation.
fight day, when you have that fight day and you're visualizing down the line everything of that night and all the success, that's enough for you to easily follow any meal plan.
Yeah.
And any boxer that's ever been in the ring knows when you got that date, it's no better feeling. It's all you think about. Even when you're laying in bed, it's the only thing that occupies your mind. And that's why people struggle when they get out of boxing because, you haven't got any goals and you're not as driven. It's difficult. Do you work with many amateurs?
A few. I can't lie. Over the last sort of 6 months, I guess, or this year, I've sort of really positioned myself to just work with higher level pros. I just enjoy it. It's just what I'm motivated by. I like that. Right, we've got a title fight. Right, let's get every box ticked. Like I said, if I've got someone that I work with for a 4-rounder and I really like them and I see potential in them. So like Mikey Weber-Kane is a perfect example. Like he started working with me 2 years ago when he didn't really have to. Like if you looked at it, they're going, you don't need a nutritionist now. But now he's got this Southern Area title fight. We've got all the data. He's made the title weight before last camp. So we know the refuel process, we know what supplements he likes, we know what food that he likes, we know his training, what works best for him. We know everything because we've done like 9 camps together over the start of his pro career. And his coach was adamant, Tony, he was like, I want him to work with someone like yourself to get all of this stuff nailed. So when it comes round for a 6-week camp for a title fight, he's not having to do all this stuff and learn it over 5 weeks and just wing it. Oh, we might lose 3 kilos in fight week. We might not. You don't know that. So we've got all of the information, we know everything, and now obviously he's going to go into a title fight with everything there backing him, and his opponent likely doesn't have that. So we've got the advantage already.
Yeah, that's huge.
So like I said, I work with some lower level pros, and I work with some amateurs, but the amateurs that I work with are very, very serious ones. They're not ones that are fighting every other weekend. They're ones that are fighting in nationals, fighting in box cups abroad.
There's a lot of that coming up soon.
Yeah, nationals in November.
Yeah.
So I work with the ones that are doing the Haringey and ones that are, either sponsored or they're going for silverware sort of thing. Because that's ultimately, without being vain, I guess, that's what motivates me to help them. I want them to win titles. I want them to win trophies and stuff. That's what you're in sport for, really, at the end of the day, isn't it? To win.
Definitely.
So give a shout out to two of the lads that I work with that are unbelievable amateurs. A kid called Alfie Woods. So he trains in Christchurch down in Bournemouth. He trains with Mace Ruegg. Absolutely lovely kid, very, very, very talented. Just coming off he's broke his wrist earlier this year, but he's been with England Boxing. He's coming back for a box cup in Denmark or Sweden in November time. Unbelievably talented kid, 19 years old, trains with Dan Aziz. Very, very good southpaw now. And a close friend of mine, Dylan Burston, based in Devon. Unbelievable, mate. He's become a very, very good friend of mine personally, but he's just winning every box cup. He's been out and trained at top ranked gym in America this summer. 18 years old, 10 fights unbeaten, just literally stopping all of his opponents, complete powerhouse.
Wow.
What's
his weight?
80 kilos.
Oh, wow.
But he'll be a cruiserweight when he's a pro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And like you said, obviously you're sort of focusing on the pros. There's so many processes that you deal with, and one that really captures the eye of the public is weight cutting. Cutting weight on fight week, especially water weight. You see it in the UFC. You see all the crazy. MMA fighters do it a lot harder than boxers, I think. What's your view on weight cutting, and could you go through a process, for example, with someone from start to finish on fight week in what you do and how much they lose?
Sure. So what you're talking about there about weight cutting is something that I've thought about this week before I come on this podcast, and I'm going to talk a little bit about females, because you've seen yourself in pro boxing. There's been a change. Loads of females are moving up weight classes. Mm-hmm. You know, like Terry Harper's moved up. You know, boxing more than me, Ash. Give me some examples.
Well, Katie Taylor fought Chantel Cameron. I think she moved up for that. Pretty sure she did.
Yeah. Clients that I've worked with have moved up weight classes. Because I think the females are noticing that when they deplete themselves, their power goes.
More than males, would you say?
I think so. And they're moving up weight classes, and they're finding out that there isn't really a weight difference. Like, what's that one that boxed last week at Michaela Mayer? Mm-hmm. Yeah. She's moving up, like 3 weight classes, same as Terry Harper. And obviously still feeling good, like, you know, still competing at that level. It's not like it's a disadvantage her moving up 3 weight classes. Whereas if, for example, Martin McDonough moved up to super welterweight and started boxing Troy Williamson, probably be a bit different, probably be a big size difference, wouldn't there?
Yeah.
So I think the females, they're finding more of an advantage of not cutting so much weight, and also missing things like their menstrual cycle, really affecting their mental health. I've been and spoken to some females that have got severe eating disorders from having to get down in weight, and it's just like, well, why do you need to get down to that weight? Like, what's the difference really between 59 kilos and 63? Like, in female boxing, is there really a big difference? Like, should we be focusing more on health and just fueling you so you're performing and feeling strong and really doing damage to opponents, instead of just draining you down to a weight and you start?
It's the old school mentality. That's why. Obviously, you're talking like it sounds so simple to say, well, why don't you just be strong and be the weight class above? But for as long as I've ever known in boxing, it's always, how low can you get? Do you reckon you can lose another 2 kilos?
Yeah.
Like, there's always that get the advantage over being as small as big as possible, when it's not an advantage. If you're depriving yourself of strength and recovery and everything else, then you're going to be way worse off at that weight than as if you move up, like you're saying.
Yeah. So the females is one which I'm now starting to think a little bit more. The more I'm involved with it, the more I'm speaking to, you know, working with female boxers, being in that sort of circle now, which I perhaps wasn't when I started out. I'm starting to think that it doesn't make really much of a difference in female boxing, to be honest with you. Unless you're like a super featherweight and you're like 5'2", and then you're fighting a 5'8", you know, super lightweight with a massive jab and reach, then you're going to struggle to break the distance and stuff like that. But I think in general, yeah, female boxing. Male boxing, yes, I think there's an advantage over it. And I think males enjoy that sort of cut process, weirdly. They moan about it, but I think mentally it gives them an edge. And I think they actually enjoy making championship weight to a degree. It makes them feel like they're in a worthwhile fight. It makes them feel like they're getting a performance advantage. They like that sort of mental preparation.
Is there a fine line between it, though? between like maybe they do cut too much on fight week and you see it in their performance. Have you seen that happen?
Yes, yeah, I have, yeah. And you usually see it if people are watching boxing. You tend to see it after round 6, 7. Just that drop off, and their body just can't. What's happened the day before, their just muscles just can't contract as they would be able to because they've just taken too much electrolytes and too much fluid out of the muscle. It just can't function properly. It can't fire those like motor neurons to actually just get that snap. So you see the legs start to go. That's when you see bad knockouts. So
yeah, well, I seriously think that's what the problem was with Errol Spence. That was his biggest issue, just because he's so big.
yeah,
I think, even though he had a nutritionist, he'd done everything right, he cannot make that weight. He
see that with
can't.
Liam Smith.
Yeah, but then also, what professional boxer puts on 42 pounds out of camp, regardless of injury? If you know you've got a fight coming
That's
up,
like what? Say that's 93 kilos would have been 92.
yeah,
Is that right?
yeah,
Crazy.
yeah.
I
just
don't
over 90.
actually understand how that was allowed to happen and how that happened. But again, that's someone else's business. That's someone else's team.
It's
so I
just,
can't-
it's not an excuse. When you're at that level, there is zero, regardless, even if you're injured, eat less. If you can't move as much, eat less. If you put on 42 pounds and that's your excuse when you lose, it's on you.
And it's also not just the cut. So people think this. They think the water cut. Oh, the water cut was to blame from that. The water cut might have gone really well. Like he might have sweated really easily. He might have lost a load of, fiber weight in the gut, etc. But having said that, it's not the water cut the day before. It's the 6-week cut of a ridiculous amount of energy deficit. The body's not peaking. The body is constantly being suppressed. Then a water cut, and then expecting it to perform on the highest stage. So yeah, I think males, there's definitely an advantage. You've seen it firsthand with Martin McDonough, moving down to lightweight, just rehydrates back up to like 72 kilos, ridiculous. Massive performance advantage there. So I think there's definitely, but it's a conversation to have as a team. Like, was a loss or was a draw or was a bad performance really to do with the weight cut, or was it to do with tactics? Was it to do with the fighter being in a bad psychological place? I think there's this culture where it's an easy out. Just blame the weight cut. You see it all the time. Oh, I was drained, there was a weight cut. Yeah, but your opponent probably cut like 5 kilos and he won. So everyone's doing it. It's like in UFC, no one blames the weight cut, really, do they? Because they're all doing it. They're all dehydrating like 20 pounds in fight week.
Yeah, it's
So
just part of it.
It's just, that's part of the culture. I think in boxing it's not that aggressive, and it doesn't need to be because it's a striking sport. And I don't really think you get a massive advantage from it. I think the biggest advantage you probably get from rehydrating more is just self-confidence. Just thinking, I'm bigger, I feel stronger. That's my impression of being big. But I think it's more of a psychological thing than it is actually like a performance advantage. But
So what is the process of a weight cut?
process of a weight cut, again, this is changing the more and more I'm getting more kind of experience with it. I think a lot of fighters forget that you do this whole training camp, and the idea is obviously to peak for performance, and then you have this little weight cut, and then you've got to pick yourself back up again, which on paper doesn't really make any sense, does it? When you're trying to think about peaking for performance, like a football pre-season, you have a whole pre-season training, losing a bit of weight, getting fit, having pre-season matches, and then you have the Community Shield on the first day of the season, and you're ready to win and compete at your highest level. I think a lot of boxers forget that fight week is still a training week, and you still want to feel sharp on the pads because of the confidence that it brings. You've seen fighters that have been at open workouts, which, by the way, is the most stupid thing that's involved in pro boxing, is open workouts.
Really?
I think so, yeah.
It brings a bit of hype.
Brings a bit of hype, but the
fans.
fighters don't want to do it. Like, the interviewers don't want to. It's just, yeah. But you see the fighters that just can't be bothered at open workouts, and you see the ones that are not cutting ridiculous amounts of weight and they actually like enjoy the open workouts, and they're doing a 30-minute workout, and you see the ones that get in there, shadow box for 2 minutes and then get out. So I think, yeah, the culture of it is fight week is still a training week. You still want to feel sharp. You still want to feel good. You still want to feel like looking forward to the fight. You don't want to feel like, oh, I just want to get this weigh-in done, and then the fun part begins. You want to feel good all the way up until, whatever cut needs to be done. But typically, we'd look at sort of being, I lessen it now. So I say, there's guidelines and stuff taken from combat sports research. You want to be 10% out. I've never had a athlete that's been 10% out of their body weight before a weigh-in. I just think that's just way too dangerous. You're relying on like 5-6% from dehydration, which is towards the higher end. So I say like 5-6% of their body weight out, you know, a week out or after their last spar.
So let's say you got a lightweight boxer.
Yeah.
So you're looking for them to be on fight week about, what's 5%?
So lightweight 61.2, 135 pounds.
So it'll be like 65?
Yeah.
Start of fight week? 66?
65 and a half, 66 max.
So start of fight week,
Yeah.
they'll be about 5 kilos above,
Yeah.
and then the process begins.
The process begins, which is not a very nice process, but it can be made a little bit better by the food options that are selected. And that's where obviously using not just textbook, right, you need to eat cheese and avocado because they're high in fat. It's actually like, right, okay, yes, you need to have this on paper, but what does that look like on the plate? And when I'm sitting there, you know, designing recipes or plans or even making it for the fighters in fight week, I sit there and I think, visualize it on a plate and I think, would I like to eat that? If I wasn't even dieting, would I like to actually eat that? Would that be like, oh, that's nice? So I try and make the meals, one, we're looking at lower carbohydrates. That's just a given. Everybody knows this now in combat sports. You don't need them in the fight week and they just hold on to water. So we take those out. And the more muscle mass that somebody has, the more carbohydrates or the more water that they're going to drop. So I could have a lightweight that's 65 kilos and another lightweight that's 65 kilos. Athlete A has got maybe 20% lean mass and then athlete B's got 25%. They're going to lose probably 0.5, 0.6 of a kilo more when they pull carbohydrates out. So athlete A would rely more on dehydration, or we need to get them closer to the weight of our body fat. So that's where everyone's different. They might make the same weight, but you've got to pull certain things out of their diet. But yeah, typically like lower carbohydrates after their last spar. So I always work it off that. So when's your last spar? I'm not pulling anything, not pulling fluid, not
Do
pulling
you let them
carbs.
rehydrate from the last spar with carbs straight after?
No.
No, okay.
No. So that's where that then gets interesting because obviously they're in that broken down catabolic state after a 10, 12 round spar. And normally you'd want to give them stuff to recover for their immune system. So I do it. So I say like, listen, after your last spar, that's when we're going to start it. Because I'm now not really too bothered about performance metrics to a degree after that. The main thing is you got a good last spar, you're feeling good, that's what you wanted to get out of it. So we're not going to cut anything before that. Even if it's the Sunday before, you know, they spar Sunday morning and the weigh-in's on Friday, we still keep it there. That will be quote unquote a depletion exercise. So that'll be, you know, carb glycogen depleting a 10 round max effort spar, hopefully. And sometimes if they've got energy at the end of the spar and you still feel like they can do it, that's a good sign. You can then do some sort of like air bike intervals, you know, red zone heart rate, treadmill intervals, just to burn through that little bit more sort of fuel stores, because you won't want to be doing that 2 days later. It's too much strain on the body, so you may as well couple it with that sort of session. So
it's max effort. That final session, you expect them to leave there broken.
proper balls to the wall, max effort, depletion. Then we know that their body's depleted all of its fuel stores, so they might have gone into that spar, you know, 70% topped up with carbohydrates in their body. We want to empty that tank as much as possible. And then any sort of stuff that they take on in the next few days, say for example they're on 75 grams of carbs, they're going to burn through that in their training session in fight week, but they're not going to store it. So they're going to eat it, burn it, drop back down. So we do that obviously after they spar, their last spar. Pull in, there's a lot of stuff out there which we don't know. So water loading is one. I get athletes ask me that all the time, athletes that have never done it as well. So they're like, I want to do a water load. Okay, do you know anything about it? Yeah, I need to drink like 10 litres of water. Okay, give that a go then. The premise of this is we just don't know enough about this. So the idea of it is you drink loads of water, drink loads and loads of fluid, typically around your sort of body weight. So you'd go for, if you're 70 kilos, you drink 7 litres for 4 days and then drop it way down. So your body still thinks that you're taking that water on and then you start flushing it out, basically. You basically pee more, is the simple way of putting it. What people don't realise is that you can just drink sort of normal levels of water, sort of your habitual daily training intake, 4 or 5 litres, and then drop it down. It has a similar effect. And the effect that water loading has on that amount that you would wee out is tiny. It's like 0.2 of a kilo. And if you're really, really pushing your weight that badly, that's what like MMA fighters do. Do you know what I mean? It's like boxing is not MMA,
Yeah.
and they're doing it because they're literally shaving their chest hair off to make weight. And I don't think boxers should really be doing those things.
Yeah.
That's just my personal opinion.
My friend Joe's making his pro debut tomorrow. Obviously, this will be out a bit further down, but he messaged me just the other day saying water loading today, 8 litres of water. But it's completely different with what they do. And surely it can't be good for your kidneys and stuff, water loading, time and time again.
Yeah, it's like drinking too much alcohol. Your body doesn't know what to do with it. Your kidneys are going. The reason you're peeing more out is because your kidneys don't want it in your body. That's why it's peeing more out, because it's saying you're flooding our body with water. Like, it's probably going to overflow and you're probably going to kill us. So that's why you piss more out, and that's not like a good. That's not like a good thing. And also, we don't know how much fluid you can take on before that starts to then. I've heard stories where people have drunk too much water, and it's like flooded their brain, and they get like a brain injury. We don't know what that limit is. So you might get someone that reads something wrong on social media. They're 60 kilos and they think they need to drink 10 litres, and they do it and they get a brain injury. And also, not so much with smaller hall boxing, with the higher level pro boxing, when they have open workouts, press conferences, travel, media obligations, and then you're drinking 8 litres of water a day and you constantly need to be near a toilet.
And you've got no electrolytes in your body,
No
which is
electrolytes
what
in
you
your
need
body.
to function.
No electrolytes in your body, yeah. That becomes really annoying because they're always having to go to the toilet. I've had fighters that have driven 3 hours to, a fight hotel, and they've had to stop 7 times to go to the toilet. It's just, it becomes annoying, and it's like, I'm doing this for 0.2 of a kilo weight loss, likely. And I just think, just get closer to your normal weight. Stop thinking that you need to do some outrageous cut because you're a boxer. Like, you don't need to.
So back to your cutting then. So you drop the carbs,
Yep.
which obviously holds water. So obviously you're going to drop water that way. Comes to nearer the end of fight week, what happens next?
Comes to the end of the fight week, we'll pull sort of like, as we get 2-3 days out, we'll start pulling, the meals might be really big, packed out, super salads, low in carbs, but
Big
high in
volume.
energy. Yeah, you might do like tandoori chicken salad with cucumber and mint and cherry tomatoes and stuff like that. And then it might get to Tuesday or the Wednesday before the Friday weigh-in, and we go, okay, we need to take some of that bulk out. So we take the fibre out. So we might say, okay, well, we're just going to do some satay chicken thighs with some, a little bit of wilted spinach and something like that. So it's still high energy, but what's actually on that plate is gone from 500 grams with lots of fibre to 200 grams and next to no fibre. So it's weird. My dad just had one of those. Hope he won't mind me saying this. He won't listen to this podcast. He had one of those things where you get basically flushed out and then
Yeah, a colon cleanser.
That's it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Terence Crawford was talking about it. He's had one.
That's it, okay.
Yeah.
Well, my dad was getting it for some issues he's having with his bowel. And he had to have like laxatives for like 2 days and not eat anything for 48 hours. So just literally just flush like his whole system out. I'm not saying that's what you should do at all, by the way. But having like a low fibre intake basically does its best to 70% clear out what's left in your gut. So food waste, poo, basically. So you don't have anything inside you. That's why fighters sometimes say, I haven't been to the toilet in 2 days in fight week. And then after the weigh-in in the evening, they actually then go to the toilet. That's a good thing. A lot of them say, I haven't been to the toilet, Jack. I'm like, no, that's a good thing. Your body's not got that 0.7 of a kilo of poo basically in your stomach. So that's a good thing. So that's a strategy that
That's
we'll
weird that you
use.
say it's a good thing that you've not pooed for a few days, because naturally you think you want to excrete as much as possible all the time.
Yeah, but people think that that's exactly it, Ash. Yeah, people think, oh no, I'm not going to the toilet. It's like, yeah, well, you don't. That's the idea. You don't want to be going to the toilet. That's the idea. And if that happens, in the camp, then obviously they're not having enough vegetables, they're not having enough fibre, they're not having enough oats, seeds, etc., which is an issue. We'll get to the day before the weigh-in. Typically this day, I don't like to have right, do that, and then just expect them to do it. I like to say like, right, we'll have a call the day before that day, or we'll have a chat, to see where you're at weight-wise, because that day, anything can happen. So we need to be reactive on that day. This
So
is where obviously,
hypothetical, you've got a lightweight, started off 60, 65 kilos, 66.
yeah.
It's the day before, you're having a phone call with them. What weight would you want them to be at this point?
So we'd be looking, if it's a day before weigh-in, and say for a title, we'd want them to be really sort of cutting from, if they're going to be doing a water cut, between sort of 2 and 3% max. So we're looking at starting that water cut, which we'll get on to talk about active and passive methods, probably about 64, 63.5. So they're cutting 2 kilos basically of fluid, which, to be fair, we're sat here now, it's probably 27 degrees. If we went and trained together, outside, we went for a run, we'd probably drop a kilo each.
I sweat a
More,
lot.
yeah.
Yeah.
So if we went for a run down the seafront here, we'd probably drop a kilo. And when I say that, we wouldn't think about that as cutting weight, would we? We just think we're just going for a run. We'll get a coffee afterwards, we'll get some electrolytes afterwards. So when I frame it to the fighters that, you're going to lose 2 kilos of fluid, but in reality, you'll float a bit of that overnight, and you've probably lost 2.5 kilos in a sparring session in the heat. So, but you wouldn't class that as dehydrating yourself. That's just you're just training. So I'll try and frame it that way, that they're not cutting weight to a degree. But yeah, we start the fight day. I try and say to the fighters, listen, try and keep as busy as possible and push your meal times back. So instead of getting up and having your breakfast at 7 a.m., I say, get up, have a shower, go for a walk, drop some tickets off, do whatever you got to do, come back, let your body process stuff, and then eat at 10, 11, and then eat again at 4, 5 o'clock, go out, do stuff, get your hair cut, do whatever. Keep yourself busy, basically, speaking to people, forget about your hunger, and then have that last meal, 5, 6 o'clock, and then we might start weight cut. So we might start, okay, we're going to do, for example, a light sweat out the night before, and then we're going to do 60, 70% in the morning. So we'll either pick an active or a passive method or a combination of both. So this will all be trialed beforehand, what athlete wants to do what. I've had athletes that have wanted to do active, so like the morning of the weigh-in, they've had a bit of breakfast, they've got 1.5 kilos to lose. They'll wrap up and walk or run on a jog, really steady state on a treadmill. Practiced it before, know how much weight they're going to lose, walk down to the weigh-in, they've been dehydrated for 2 hours max, weigh in, rehydrate. They've left their body in they've not been left their body in a stress state for any period of time at all.
So they're not really
Hour, 2
inflamed
hours.
whatsoever.
No.
Yeah.
We've got some athletes that have wanted for their psychology and their peace of mind to start the cut the night before, which is fine. I wouldn't recommend doing a full-on 3% dehydration because it will interfere with your sleep, dry mouth whilst you're trying to sleep, etc. But if you wanted to get a head start and just get your body, primed and ready, core temperature up, lose a little bit for psychology. Say you've got 2 kilos to drop and you drop a kilo the night before and you float 0.3 or 0.4. That leaves you with, say for example, 0.8 in the morning because you're going to have a little bit of water in the morning and something to eat. It breaks it up a little bit, so some fighters prefer to do it that way. And then you've got some fighters that will just wake up the morning of the weigh-in and just do it and just get it done because they've done it time and time again. But with this whole sort of water cutting process, it needs to be planned and rehearsed before. The fighter needs to know what they're doing, so they need to know if they're going to be choosing an active method or they're choosing a passive method or a combination of both. They need someone to help them do it, usually me or their coach, etc. If they're doing a hot bath, for example, they need to know the temperature of the bath. They need to know what wraps they're getting into afterwards. They need someone to help them do it. If they're doing passive, they need to know the speed of the treadmill. They need to know the temperature of the sauna that they might be going into. So all of this stuff, for example, if we're going away for a fight, we'll check out that, hotel's got a bath, it's got a spa we can use locally. It's got everything that we need to make the weight cut as smooth as possible. And we take all of the relative stuff that we need, heat blankets, thermometers, stuff like that. And I found that the more experience I've got working, in that situation, little things make a big difference. So, for example, if we could do half of the cut the night before and then half of it in the morning, but it means in the morning, they wake up fresh, they can have a bit of fruit, they can have a couple of sweets, they can have a little espresso or something, and that's going to probably put on 0.1 of a kilo, but that psychologically makes a big difference before they go into that second phase of that cut. And then obviously making sure that the rehydration is all correct as well.
So with mindset as well of all of this, do you find that just working with fighters, getting your rhythm with them, the best thing to do is have a relationship and to just do it time and time again, repetition, get the experience? Do you feel like that's the best way for anyone to master it? Like to just start doing it now, learn from the experiences, learn from your mistakes, understand your body a bit more, and then every weight cut that you do and you try, obviously, it's just going to get easier and better.
For me personally or for the fighter?
For both of you, I guess.
For both. Yeah, just putting yourself, it's like, I'm trying to think of an example in the gym. It's like the more and more that you do a landmine press, the better you're going to get at it, the less risk you're going to get of getting injured, and the more power you're going to put and the more weight you'll be able to put doing that landmine press, an example. It's the same thing. It's the experience of being in that situation and learning one little thing from it each time. And if I do that 25 times a year, that's 25 times I'm going to learn something different to go into the next one. Like last week, as an example, I had a guy that was cutting weight, and he had one of those heated blankets that you wear in bed in the winter.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, I did the bath, and then I had it, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to put that round me and then put stuff over me to keep the heat in. And I thought, that's a brilliant idea. Why didn't I think of that? But you don't learn these things until you do it. And now I think, okay, if I was doing a cut with someone and we wanted to really reduce the amount of time they were doing that cut, you know, they go from being in a hot bath, put some clothes on, go into some wraps. I think that's actually a really good idea for people that don't have a pop-up infrared sauna to get into afterwards. They can just put a heated blanket on them, wrap up, lie down, and it's going to keep their body at that temperature instead of letting it cool down, but they're just sat in wraps for ages, and then they're going to have to lose more in the next bath. So that could be the difference from them doing 2 baths or having to do a third, which psychologically you don't want to go back into that third one to lose 0.3 of a kilo.
And have you noticed for people to be heat adapted is so important? Like some people can easily sweat as soon as they're in any heat. Others, their body might really retain water, so they might have to go sauna leading up to it just so they can get used to sweating out.
This is massive. This is something that I've learned as well is absolutely, it's not a fad, it's a genuine thing of being acclimatized to that heat and that stressful environment. My sweat, you said you've got a high sweat rate. My sweat rate is like through the roof for some reason at the moment. Probably because I've been training outdoors, been away a few times this summer training as well, doing more saunas for prolonged periods of time with fluid in them. And I now can go on a walk back in the gym, mate, and it's just like sweat is just dripping off me. I'm like, this is like 130 heart rate. I'm just dripping. But I think it's because of all of the way it definitely is of putting myself in those hot situations. So boxers that are, you know, they've got a sparring day, they're not going to train again in a day. I said, go relax, chill at a spa, sauna, even have a hot bath of Epsom salts. Get your body used to sweating and giving up that fluid. But drink loads after sparring, so rehydrate, and then your body will be nice and chilled, and will just give up that fluid. And you're training your body to be in that stressful situation, because I've seen it where boxers like, I'd be okay, I'm going to cut weight, I'm going to jump in this Holiday Inn sauna. They get in, 15 minutes goes by, they don't sweat, and you're thinking, oh my God, this is not what I want to happen. And you start thinking, oh.
And you don't want that on fight week whatsoever.
No, and then that puts the pressure on you. You think, why they're not sweating? So if I know that a boxer's been in the sauna, I had it last week with a fighter, Matt McCallum, and we literally walked on the treadmill, like 10 minutes on an incline, walked on it next to him, jumped in the sauna. He'd done it before. He said, right, after training, I've been in the sauna, no fluid, weighed myself before, weighed myself after, in 30 minutes, 2 15-minute goes after I've been heat acclimated, so I've already been training, so my body's temperature's up, and then go straight into the sauna. I lose like 1.5 kilos in like 30, 40 minutes. So I'm like, brilliant. Well, we know that now, so we know we need to do that come the weight cut, and we did it. And
so the rehydration, so they've weighed in, they've made weight. What is now the next process for the next 24 hours before they start fighting?
Me to go get a beer or a spa day because the stress is over now. So the rehydration is the most important part of a fighter's fight camp. It's an area that gets overlooked. And I think sometimes I've fallen victim of being a bit of a wimp and not voicing my opinion enough, probably because I was 23, 24. Now I'm 26-year-old adult, I sort of stamp my authority on it a bit more and be like, no. You've done this whole camp with me and we've done everything by the book. I'm not going to just sit back and just watch you eat, a pizza or something just because your teammates are going to Zizzi's. I'm not going to sit there as your nutritionist and let it, because guess what happens? When you don't perform in the fight, the finger's going to be pointed at me. And ultimately, more importantly, that's irrelevant. More importantly, you're going to potentially lose because that one thing you've chosen to do. So now I'm very, very hot on the rehydration and making sure, one, they obviously rehydrate properly, and two, they refuel with the right foods at the right times. And if we have to be a bit boring and we have to say, like, you're going to have to eat this instead of going out for this meal, we'll do it. And I think that the fighters that are serious, like are genuinely serious about winning, which hopefully all of them are, they'll sit back and go, no, you know what, Jack wants me to have this and it's for the right reason. And you know what, after I win that belt tomorrow, Sunday afternoon, I can go for a pizza or roast dinner with all my family and stuff. I think it's more of the team members want to go for a meal. Do you know what I mean? After the weigh-in, the team members want to go for a meal, but actually they should be like, no, the boxer needs to have this, and this, which is going to be right for them. So in terms of the rehydration,
Let's do the hypothetical lightweight boxer. So just weighed in, rehydration. What drinks is he having first of all? I'm guessing that's the first thing he's going to come across.
yeah, so I've seen this sort of trend when I've been at weigh-ins of fighters wanting to drink just water before they then start rehydrating with, carb drinks or sodium drinks. And I think you're literally just, your body's crying out for that water to go back into its muscles where it needs to go. And you're just basically drinking that litre of water and it's just going to come straight out. You can go to the toilet like within 5 minutes.
And why is that?
Because there's nothing in that to shuttle it to the muscle. It's just going straight in your body free. Like when you do a water load, you're drinking water, it just flushes straight through you. You need to add sodium, carbohydrates and other things to bind to that water to take it and shuttle it back into the cell. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like if you're drinking that plain water after a weigh-in, you're not going to absorb any of it. It's just going to go straight through you. So you're actually more kind of dehydrated. And I don't know why fighters are doing it. I've just seen it a lot recently. They're reading stuff online, which is obviously the dangers of social media and online. You can read stuff and take it for gospel. But typically, say we want to try and get 1.5 litres of fluid back into that fighter within the first 40-45 minutes. In that first hour, we need at least 1.5 litres going back into their system.
This is for like a lightweight, yeah.
For a lightweight, well, yeah, for pretty much most weight boxes, but yeah, for a lightweight, as an example, we'd look to get, obviously, that drink containing sodium and carbohydrates. I used to think that, again, from experience, I used to think, okay, well, we'll just get the sodium back in straight away, but actually a low sort of dose of carbohydrates, as long as it's not like excessive, like really sugary, really sweet, like a original Lucozade, that sort of high glucose. If we get a little bit of glucose, fructose, maltodextrin mix in there, could be 50 grams per litre, as long as it's under sort of 60 grams of carbohydrates per litre, that's going to help as well with obviously refueling, getting the carbs back into the body if they've gone all the way down to like zero nearly. Mm-hmm. We need to get those back in straight away. We can't leave it 3 hours for them to have 3 litres and 300 milligrams of sodium.
So with their drink, are they having like a bagel or something?
I try and give them like little tiny sort of snacks after they've had that first litre. So I say, right, drink that, get that back into your body, let your body sort of start putting the fluid back in, start, metabolizing stuff again. Then the second one, I'd say, okay, you're going to have maybe a bit of a higher carb drink now, just to start fueling a bit more. Still got sodium in it, but maybe less sodium. And then they can start having like lighter snacks, which are really low weight. And obviously, if they're going to have that blend of sugars, I try and keep it that way. So I say, okay, you want to get a bit of fructose in there, because we can only consume so much glucose in the gut per hour in a given time frame. Just like with protein, you can only digest so much at a time. Same with carbohydrates. If you have 150 grams of glucose or pure dextrose powder, some of that's going to be left in the gut, like a weight doctor's waiting room. It's going to be left sat in there, and it needs time to get out. Whereas we've got different transporters in our gut. So we've got 1, 2, 3 different transporters. If we can get some fructose and some multi-transportable carbohydrates, you've got those 3 different avenues, or those 3 exits at a roundabout that I like to call it. Mm-hmm. That you're putting, and those exits to those roundabout leads to the muscle. So you're shuttling that energy and those carbohydrates into the muscle 3 different ways instead of just 1. So we look to have, like I said, those different carbohydrates. So that could come in form of the different sort of drinks, chews. So for example, if you use gels or sort of like energy chews that are high in fructose or maltodextrin, those are absorbed. They're easy to eat, easy to carry around to the weigh-in. You can keep them cool. Stuff like bananas or dried fruit, really easy to just graze on quickly, like, raisins, dates, stuff like that. And then you can then start to have stuff like your bagels, your Nutella sandwiches, stuff like that, and then go for a main meal. So I was trying to say, like, if you're weighing in at 12, you should probably looking to eat a main meal by 2:30.
Okay.
By the time you get back from a weigh-in as well, you've got to do your interviews, you've got to get back to the hotel, you've got to faff about. So I like to have everything prepped for them to have on that 2-hour period, and then we'll then have the first meal after that. So
after that first meal, are they already getting back to the water weight that they'd already previously cut? Are they pretty much back to normal on the same day before weighing? Yeah, so we want to get them back straight away to the weight that they'd cut from.
So say, for example, they were 64 kilos before they'd done the water cut. We want to get them back up to that point before they then have their first meal to a degree. So we'll check their weight. If they're, say, back up to 64, we're like, brilliant, they're rehydrated, near on rehydrated, nearly, you know, we're not in that massive sort of deficit. Then they can then have that first meal, which they'll want to naturally eat a lot, but you kind of got to say to them, listen, we need this to be obviously high in carbohydrates, simple sugars, a little bit of protein, not loads. So you might not have 175 grams of chicken breast like you might do in camp. You say, I'm just going to have some pasta with 100 grams, so it's a bit of protein. And then they can then have light snacks afterwards because they're not full up. That's a mistake that a lot of boxers will make, is they'll eat a massive meal because they've weighed in and they're hungry and, oh, let's go for a master team meal. And then they're sat there. I've seen fighters sat in hotel lobbies, you know, after weigh-ins, where they're sat there holding their stomach because they've had rice, pasta, garlic bread, and it's just like, then they then can't eat for 6 hours because they've just got stomach ache. So it's about just being smart, utilizing, you know, stuff like, it's all about keeping your weight low as well. So this is a conversation I've had with some coaches as well in regards to post-weigh-in stuff, is that you don't want to have fighters having so much food volume, you know, like a 700 gram bowl of pasta, because their weight will go up massively and they might not perform optimally. So they might have done all of their sparring at, say, 68, 69 kilos, and then they're going to be 73 kilos on fight night. They're just too heavy. They're fully fueled, but they've got too much food inside them that they're just too heavy.
So it impairs their performance, even though they think it's going to help.
Yeah, so this is where you stick to your main meals and you use the light, high glycemic index carbohydrates between the meals. So if you think that you could have, simple example is you could easily eat 2 bagel fins, which are 50 grams of carbs each, plus some jam, plus some banana, plus some honey, plus a glass of like smoothie or fruit juice. That'd be about 120 grams of multi-transportable carbohydrates, which you could smash easily between a meal, couldn't you? Or after a meal, easily. White bagel, jam. So that's just like a really easy example. Handful of sweets, or just like fresh fruit like pineapple, mango. These little things that you can have in between meals. Whereas a lot of fighters will go, I have a main meal after the weigh-in, wait 5 hours, and then have another main meal like a pizza, and then I'm done. And it's just like, no, you're really, really not optimizing fuel in the tank and putting the correct foods into your body.
So little and often, and then it gets to fight day. What are they fueling the following day? Like when it's actually like
fight day, you're usually generally speaking going to be in like a hotel. So either you would have had prep your own breakfast, which I do generally have some athletes do, because the more obviously I've been in that situation and been in hotels, you realise the breakfast is suboptimal. So I like
what's
to get
your favourite? What's a good go-to?
Generally one that the fighters had during camp. So it's either going to be something like pancakes, French toast, or a bowl of porridge and like some scrambled egg on a bagel or something like that. Homemade smoothie, stuff like that. That's going to be nice and slow digesting. Fight day is a difficult one because it's not really about fueling up to a degree. You should have kind of done 70% of that, I like to say, the day before. This is like a match day for a footballer, but you don't see a footballer really just overeat. I mean, I know footballers that really struggle to eat on match day. So it's all about having that high carb, low GI breakfast to obviously keep them full. A couple of light snacks, and then given timings, if you're fighting at 5:30, you're probably going to have breakfast around 9 and then a pre-fight meal around 1, 2, and then light snacks leading into the fight. If you're fighting main event, you might have breakfast, go for a walk, have a bit of lunch, have a nap, have, you know, your pre-fight meal around 4, 5 o'clock, and then do it that way. So yeah, I think a lot of fighters will only probably eat 2 or 3 times on fight day because you don't want to feel too heavy. You want to feel nice and light. And you should have done the fueling the day before. So
that's good to know, because I think a lot of people feel like they should overeat once they've weighed in to get those extra benefits of maybe the extra energy that you've just eaten. But yeah, to be on point and to maybe, do you treat the same day maybe as like a sparring day of the fight day? Is it like imitated so they already know the process and their
similar
body reacts
foods? I say 70-80% same foods as sparring day, but we might jazz it up a little bit, or work with what options we've got depending on the venue, etc., and what we can come up with. But yeah, typically speaking, we want to keep it as close to a sparring day as possible because that's similar to what a fight's going to be. So we'll do the fueling the same as as it was for sparring day.
And what type of snacks would you recommend to people for, I know you're saying like hypoglycemic and stuff, including like sparring days, what are some good meals off the top of your head that people could eat maybe 2 hours before, 3 hours before, that's going to give them the most amount of energy?
Yeah. So if they're sparring on a morning, obviously you want to try and push a lot of your calories to the front end of the day. There's no point having, say, like 80% of your energy intake after you've sparred. You want to cram more of it in, beforehand. So having like a big breakfast. This is where some people are different as well. Some people think like oats and stuff slows them down, makes them feel a bit sluggish. Some people feel really good on them. So again, that's to do with an individual. But like a bowl of porridge with like banana, blueberries, honey, maple syrup, something like that for breakfast. Scrambled egg on toast with a little bit of maple syrup and some veg. Sounds weird, but granola bowl. So like that's a good one for the fighters that struggle to eat. So like a bowl of like Greek yogurt, some granola, some banana, some honey, some chopped fruit like mango or strawberries. That's a lighter one, so it doesn't make them feel as bulky. So they feel nice and light going into the spar. Sparring on an afternoon, obviously you want to make sure you eat probably about 3 hours before if it's a main meal. So you're looking at something like basmati rice, sweet chili chicken, low fibre veg like spinach, beetroot, mange tout, stuff like that, asparagus. And then if they're maybe sparring on an evening and they want to have, it's all dictated by weather as well. So obviously at the moment you're not going to want to have a massive bowl of porridge really. Mm-hmm. So stuff like, if they're sparring in the afternoon, they might want to have like cold rice or cold pasta. Wraps are a good one, like chicken wraps, 2 chicken wraps, different sauces, etc. So yeah, loads of options you can do, but mainly obviously carbohydrate dominant is what we try and hammer home, and lower protein.
Yeah,
you don't need that much protein before you spar.
Is there anything you recommend people not to eat hours before? Is there any foods that maybe are going to be the least helpful? Like you're saying, like low protein. I guess if someone's going to eat 300 grams of chicken and a tiny bit of rice and have hardly any carbs or something, it's not going to be good.
Yeah.
What's a big no-no, would you say?
Big no-no. Anything like really high in fiber, so like really veg dominated, really high in fat, and anything kind of like really spicy or something. You wouldn't have a curry before you spar, or some people don't have anything because they think I want to burn loads of calories in sparring. So that's probably the biggest one actually, them not having anything. So make sure you eat before you spar, even if you don't think you need to. You definitely need to, because you're going to get hungry in the afternoon. So if you're one of those people that's like, I like doing faster training, I don't need to eat before I spar, you need to eat at least something, whether it's just peanut butter, banana on toast, something like that.
I love that.
Yeah, if you want to feel nice and light, there are options that you can pick that are still going to make you feel fueled and are still going to stop you from being really hungry afterwards. Those fighters that skip breakfast are the ones that get really hungry in the evening. But that's just common sense. It's just your body playing catch up from not fueling itself. So.
Yeah. And for amateurs, let's say obviously you're weighing in same day, what type of foods are there that are maybe low in weight?
Yeah. That
you'll get the most amount? Let's say on the day you still need to lose a kilo as an amateur, but you still want to eat and fuel yourself before the weigh-in. Is there any types of little foods that you'd recommend before maybe they burn off a bit of water weight later on, or?
Yeah, amateur boxing is actually horrible. The more I've been involved with it, with these like box cups where you got to weigh in on the Friday, weigh in again on the Saturday, and then weigh in again on the Sunday, all at separate times. One you got to weigh in at 9 a.m, the other we got to weigh in at 11 a.m. It's crazy. Like
whilst competing.
I've seen fighters like at Haringey like compete and then go and like do a run or like a skip after they've boxed, because they might have stopped their opponent in a round, or they might have had an easy fight. And then they're thinking about making weight for the next day, so they're then like skipping off like half a kilo and like pulling back on fluid intake after their first bout. Crazy. But typically, like you said, the key one is the weight of the food. So you're not going to have a 500 gram bowl of pasta. You're going to want to stick to, there's less reliance on actually having a proper meal per se. I think the key goal has got to be fueling. So I actually go down the route of saying like, listen, you want to have stuff like a peanut butter and banana sandwich. You want to have like chocolate milkshakes. You want to have rice pudding pots. You want to have cereal bars, rice cakes. Even if you take a box of cereal and just buy some milk there, or have a Yazoo with some chocolate, with some Cocoa Pops or something, it's going to be really low in weight, but you're still going to get that high amount of energy from it, and you can make it there and then. Stuff like wraps. Wraps are obviously really low in weight, high energy. You can do chicken salad wraps or something, barbecue chicken wraps. So those kind of foods are the foods that you'd look to go for. Low in weight, obviously high in energy, and you don't really, like I said, you don't really need to have high fat, high protein. So actually, I used to think, yeah, well, you're competing, so you need a meal. You don't need a main meal. It's like pro boxers that weigh in on the day. If it's going to stop them from fueling properly and what they're looking to achieve, they need to saturate their carb stores. So if they're going to have like a tuna pasta salad, and that's going to fill them up for 2 hours, and they've got 4 hours between weighing in and fighting, and we could get 400 grams of carbs into them through little snacks, and then they can have a main meal after they fight to recover. Why are we not doing that? Why are we thinking that we need to have a main meal? Do you know what I mean?
Very smart. Yeah, so little and often seems to be quite a recurring theme there.
Yeah.
Lots of little things. And like, I found it quite interesting when you said that you've got different channels of getting your carbs in and everything else. So instead of just having, what you said earlier about fructose, instead of just having like glycogen in one area or whatever, you've got like 3 different areas of fueling up. I didn't know that.
So if you think as well, like for breakfast, as an example, if you have, a piece of brown sourdough granary toast, and you have, some egg whites and some eggs, some vegetables, and a bit of avocado, for example, you're getting a balanced meal. There's fats, protein, fiber, low GI carbs, etc. That meal is going to sit in your stomach because it's trying to digest the fats, and it takes a long time to get the fats out. It's got that whole grain carbs, which takes a long time to break down. It's got the protein. So that's why if you have that for breakfast, you feel full. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you just have a bowl of Cocoa Pops, or a bagel, that's why you're hungry within an hour, because it's out your stomach, it's absorbed, which is what you want after a weigh-in. You want it to be absorbed and out of your stomach, because you want to be bouncing around fighting, shadowboxing with stuff in your stomach. You want to feel nice and light. There doesn't want to be anything in your stomach which is taking blood away from the muscles, yeah? So that's why when you're dieting, you select those foods. But obviously when you're competing, having all those high-fat foods, protein that's been taking ages to break down, that's when they just become
Yeah, that's
irrelevant.
so interesting. And for the amateurs, for example, you said you work with people who've done Haringey and stuff. How do you usually process their food and liquid intake if you're with them like Friday, Saturday, Sunday? Like they might refuel 2 kilos, fight, and then they sort of need to lose 1.5 kilos. Like there's probably so much that goes into it, again, case by case basis. What do you usually do for them so they can still perform the next day on a same day weighing? Is it a bit different to the pros?
Oh, completely different. It makes pros seem easy. We'd want to make like the guys that I've had compete in those kind of tournaments, we want to make sure that they're recovering first off. So again, something like there's no point in them having just a protein shake, or we want to make sure they're getting low-ish protein, but still some. And obviously restocking the high GI carbs to get their energy levels back up and keeping the weight low. It's on paper, it's actually like pretty complicated, but something like a chocolate milkshake and a cereal bar or a banana, that's off the top of your head 60 grams of carbs, maybe 15 grams of protein in them straight away, bit of fluid as well, a bit of sodium. So they're getting that recovery in straight away, and then they might then go home, have like recovery meal like salmon and white rice, some vegetables like spinach,
Like a low weight food
yeah,
still?
spinach, asparagus, cherry tomatoes, peppers, something like that. No bulky broccoli or cauliflower, carrots or anything like that. And then before bed they might have some ice cream and some honey or something like that, or some pancakes and some fruit. Again, low weight, high carbs,
Low
fructose
fiber
as well.
too?
Low fiber as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I say white rice. Low weight as well, so salmon fillet, it's probably 120 grams, 150 grams, 125 grams of rice. You can have a meal for about 250 grams of weight that you would hold in your hand. So when a fighter looks at that, they go, oh, that's like a recovery meal. I've got some healthy fats there for inflammation, some protein, some carbs to top me back up, a bit of salad, a bit of seasoning, but it's only 250 grams. I'll probably process that as well overnight, and I'll probably wake up lighter on weight, as opposed to them having a massive jacket potato, and they wake up and they think, well, that was a bit heavy. I shouldn't have eaten that. So it's all about being smart with your food choices.
It's quite a misconception. Recovery, you'd think, oh, I'm going to need protein as soon as I fight. I'm going to need to have like quite a high protein meal maybe. But you're saying obviously you want higher carbs more than protein.
Yeah.
So the ratio, you want more like 20% protein is a good.
Probably like 3 to 1. So if you do
3 to 1.
60-20,
Okay.
say 60 grams of carbs, 20 grams of protein, or 50 and 15, 40 and 10, something like that. I'm actually a bit of a believer now that you don't need as much protein for boxing than people think. So I'm thinking like, because of the amount of training that the boxers do, I have a lot of them that really do maintain muscle mass on, say, like 120 grams, 130 grams a day. And I've had guys that have put on muscle mass whilst on 150 grams a day. So I actually think that boxers could probably do with actually having that as the lowest, towards the lower end of the macronutrient, pushing their carbohydrates up. I think, personally.
Yeah. Well,
That's
obviously,
just from practice.
but performance, carbohydrates are the best for high intensity performance. And it's one of the things that are usually cut from amateur boxers, pros, and cut incorrectly. Like you said, fight week, you cut it and then you rehydrate. But people do it wrong all of the time. So for you to say that maybe don't eat 400 grams of chicken in one sitting, have 200 grams and up your rice intake and maybe your vegetables or whatever, that's the way forward.
Such a weird one, because I've had a couple of fighters that have had to have cut some muscle mass to make weight, or they've put some on outside of camp. So they've gone off, they've eaten loads of calories, so they've been in a surplus, they've done a bit of weight training, they've been a bit of different training from boxing, so they've been in the weights gym, and then you come back, they do their body comp, they've put on 1.5 kilos, and you're thinking, oh my God, well that's going to be hard come the weight cut. So we need to lose that. So you then look at saying, like, oh, okay, how do I lose muscle? Which is obviously a bit of a scary sort of thought process for a boxer, but you think the amount that you train, look at mine, for example. I don't think he's ever had a tricep, but he still punches hard and, got knockout power. So you don't need, it's the functionality of the muscle that you've got. It's not about how much muscle that you have. And I think it's a misconception. And you can lose muscle mass, just lowering your protein intake down, doing high intensity training and, having a higher fat sort of, meal and then going to bed, losing protein, breaking down muscle whilst you sleep. But I think that, you don't need to have a super, super high protein intake. It's just something that I thought at the start, I always pitched it quite high. And now I'm thinking like, well, actually, I've had a good sort of success of boxers saying, well, been on a bit lower protein, muscle mass has not been put on, so I'm not having to make the weight harder. And I'm getting more carbs, so I'm feeling more energized. It's just got to monitor like muscle soreness and stuff like that. But that's something that you're always having to battle.
Yeah.
Training 3 times a day, isn't it? So.
And would you recommend for people that have had a hard training session late in the evening and they might even skip eating at all at night, or maybe like what's a good bit of food or maybe drink that they can have to consume easily that they can have before they go to sleep so they can at least recover before they go to bed? Because I know that some people training 3 times a day, they still want to get something in before they sleep without overdoing it.
Yeah, that evening training session one is a big one that I get asked a lot, to be fair. So when you train later on in the evening, say you're finishing at 8, half 8, you're obviously going to need to put some fuel back into you afterwards. By the time you get home, you have a shower, you prep your food, it could be 9:30, and that's like an hour before you go to bed. And if you're having a main meal, it's obviously your body's digesting that, it's going to sit in you, it's going to impair your ability to switch off because your body's still firing. You're going to have fluid with that as well, so it's going to impair your sleep quality. And then also the biggest thing, although it doesn't really matter, but psychologically it will, the boxer will wake up in the morning and their weight will be heavier because they've had a meal that's not digested properly. And they're, oh my God, my weight's up. It's like, yes, because you had steak and veg and potatoes for like 9 p.m. at night. So I say that one, have your training meal beforehand, fuel that session, and then afterwards, you're going to be going to bed anyway. Have something like, if you're not having to drop muscle, have something like, a berry smoothie with some whey protein in it or just some milk, a bowl of yogurt and some fruit, bowl of like granola or something like that.
Something light.
Casein protein shake, something nice and light that's going to tick the box for muscle recovery if that's what you're looking to achieve. You're going to feel recovered, you're going to digest it easily, and it's going to help your sleep as well. So
and it's easy to make.
Easy to make at 9 p.m. Yeah. So yeah, those are some good options, but I would never recommend finishing training late at night and then having a main meal. I just think if you were to have all that energy, 500-600 calories of a pre-training meal, why would you have that an hour before bed? It's useless. Have it before you train and you'll get the energy from it, and then just tick the recovery box afterwards and get a good night's sleep and then rinse and repeat.
So I've got some questions listed down that I've been asked by some people. Is it all right for me to read them out to you and
yeah,
have a little bit of a quick fire, maybe go into detail on some of them? Okay, so first question, how crucial is post weigh-in period?
Yeah, completely. Like I said earlier, it's the most important part of a boxer's training camp. It's an area that you can't get wrong. If you get it wrong, you're setting yourself up for failure. You've put all that work in over 8 to 10 weeks or longer, well, your whole career. I always frame it this way. It's not 8 to 10 weeks. It's your whole career since you're a little. So you're going to jeopardize all of that training, all the effort that other people have put into you as well, because you don't want to tick the box and be professional and get that post-weigh-in period correct. And when you start to frame it like that, that's when people start to listen and think, oh yeah, actually you're right. It's like, yeah, I'm trying to help you. That's the reason why. But it's, yeah, the most crucial part. You have to get it right. You have to follow the advice that's out there that obviously we've spoken about, and try and work with someone as well, and just try and do things correctly. Otherwise, you're gonna plan to set yourself up for failure.
Brilliant. How do you work with so many people one-to-one and deliver results?
with great difficulty. Just because, like I said, I only work with people that I want to work with and care about. So it makes it easier because I want to work with them and want to help them. If I found it a bit of a chore, I wouldn't put as much energy. I don't think I'd be able to deal with it. So I'm at a stage now where I only work with people that I want to work with, that I get on with, and I'm invested in their kind of goal. Their goal's got to be sort of sexy, I guess, for me to want to buy into it. Mm-hmm. If it's just like, oh, I'm like doing this and my opponent's going to pull out, and like I'm doing this weight, and then I'm just like can't get motivated for it.
Yeah.
So it's got to be like, yeah, Jack, I want to tick all these boxes. I've got this title fight, blah blah blah. Time management, and I guess just passion for wanting to help people, I guess, is the main thing.
This isn't on here. This is just a question from me. What makes a perfect client? What do you expect from a perfect client?
I expect them to have good communication skills with me, communicate with me. I much prefer it when, yes, it's annoying sometimes having to go through loads of messages and speak to people, but I'd rather them speak to me more frequently, and then I can answer messages when I choose to, be reply when I want to. But I'd rather them communicate with me than just go ghost and just not log anything, not speak to me. Then when that happens to me, I usually just message them and say, like, I don't want to do this because you're not communicating with me. I'm not getting anything from. I don't know if you're following the plan. I don't know how your training's going. I'm not getting a relationship with you. So I prefer it when clients are, we're communicating. We're working. At the end of the day, we're working as a team. And say this is a round table and you've got strength and conditioning coach, boxing nutritionist. It's a very close circle. So you need to feel like you're in that circle, if that makes sense. You want to feel like you're all collaborating as a team for a common outcome, because everybody wins. So, yeah.
Brilliant. And what's been one of your most memorable nights in boxing so far?
Memorable nights in boxing? Good question. I'd say although Joe lost, I'd say that the fight night in Bournemouth was special. Walking out into Vitality Stadium with all those fans there for Chris Billam-Smith's title fight, was working with Joe Pigford. That stadium. I've never been to a stadium fight, so that was an amazing experience. Like walking out and seeing that, and it being so close to home. The weather was amazing. That whole fight week was awesome in Bournemouth. And I'd say when Martin McDonough won that Southern Area, I know you were there. Small hall shows are generally some of my favourites to go to. Those 50-50 real like Southern Area English title fights. When he knocked out Conor Marsden, I remember me and Brandon, like his gym mate, and Jordan Vyman sat there ringside just going absolutely nuts.
A lot of people lost their voice.
Mate, unbelievable. Just nights like that where it's like, someone's losing and then they come back and win. The adrenaline is just insane. So I'd definitely say that one. And I've got a good relationship with like Billy and Martin, and like that's what I mean. I've got some gyms where they're sort of like family. Two big shout outs. So Billy Rumble, working with Brandon Albrecht, Tyrone King, Martin and Zach Fee. So I've got a good relationship with them. We're all a good team. And then Andy Gillett of Evolve Elite with Lewis Frimpong, Yazzie and Ahmed Hatim. And Pat Gill, so 4 of each from each stable. But so Lewis Frimpong, when he won the Southern Area title, he's boxing for an English title in 2 weeks' time. 2 weeks today.
He's very talented, Frimpong.
Very talented, yeah. Ticks, unbelievable, mate. Ticks all the boxes. Such a professional. That was a memorable night as well. Us like jumping in the ring afterwards and then winning the Southern area. So yeah, I actually prefer the sort of smaller hall shows than the big like Sky Sports cards and stuff. I think there's just something like authentic about it. I don't know. It's hard to. Obviously, you've been to them. It's hard to explain.
It's a big part of the journey as well, because you know where you're at right now with that Southern area, where some of these people are going to be in the next 5-10 years. Just being on the journey with them, you know, like you're part of their team. You feel their emotions when they win. You win.
Yeah.
You know, I see it. I see it all the time. Who was the last weekend? The comeback from Rumble's gym. Tyrone.
His clip's gone viral. He thinks he's a celebrity now. It's a shout out to Tyrone. I think he's going to stop speaking to me now. He's got too big for his boots. No, I'm only joking. Unbelievable. Yeah, Tyrone's another one where all four of those boys, to be honest with you, that they might be lower level small hall shows, but they're so professional, like with their nutrition and training and everything. Obviously, Billy sets the standard there, but yeah, Tyrone trained so hard. That camp was training and dieting when he went on holiday as well, halfway through the camp. Followed everything to the T. Like he was even written everything on his post-weigh and stuff, like timings. He wrote it on like permanent marker. Drink by this time. Like and that's just like a 5-0 fighter. You know, he was just in a 50-50 fight. Got dropped in the second round, cut. Got hit after the bell. Come back up and then stopped his opponent. And yeah, just that's what I mean. That kind of thing with so personal because you're invested in their journey. It's not a British title. It's not on a Sky Sports show, but the buzz was better than that or on a level with that. So yeah, Tyrone's going to be good talent in that division. Massive for the weight as well. Ridiculous, massive.
Brilliant. What supplements are you using with your clients?
Yeah, so as always, it depends. I'm trying to use less and less as time goes on because actually when you kind of like look at research and I'm speaking to people involved in research, actually a lot of them aren't related to combat sports. And if you dig a little bit deeper, they're taken from, you know, people that have done cohorts in 16 Taekwondo university athletes, and we're applying that to title level professional boxers. So I try and use as minimum as possible. Also, cost is another thing. I could send a list and say here's 22 supplements that have been shown to have some significant benefit on performance in 15 different sports. Just take all of them. It could work, but you know, if you want to do well, take all of them. Then that's going to be like 600 quid probably, and a boxer's not going to want to. So I pick the ones that are most bang for your buck, help with recovery. Sleep supplements are probably the best one because a lot of boxers struggle with their sleep. So looking at a lot of different sleep supplements at the moment. Stuff that
magnesium fitrate or something.
Yeah, magnesiums like ZMAs. You can get like different supplements now that have got like zinc, magnesium in them, ashwagandha. Theanine, which is an amino acid, which helps with sleep quality. Tart cherry juice, which helps with that. So
is this like a blend from certain companies?
It's like a blend. Like Cherry Active do one. There's another one which I take from Pure Sport called Unwind. That's really good. Helps with sleep quality.
Would we be able to maybe put some links in the description for people if you could send that?
Yeah, for sure. So sleep is obviously the main one for boxers. If they get more sleep, they're more recovered. We try and optimize that as much as possible, instead of looking at taking a pre-workout shot. We'll look at, well, can you just get better sleep and can we improve that? Other things like, not too much of a fan of taking a multivitamin. I just think just eat a good diet, like stop trying to paper over the cracks. A greens powder can be good sometimes just because it's just like a habit. So a good quality greens powder you can take every day. It's just habit. Get up in the morning, make sure you drink water as well. Things like creatine's a good one. I know there's a lot of stuff around it, but I think in terms of its neurological benefit around the brain, getting punched in the head, it's good to have creatine stores in the brain to reduce your risk of concussion. I wouldn't use it with people that are very dense with muscle mass, just because if they're already thick set, if you put creatine into them and a high protein into them, and you get them, even if you stop them doing S&C or hypertrophy work, even when they're punching the heavy bag, their biceps just blow up and they just start putting on muscle mass. So creatine depends on the individual. A few other ones like omega-3s, ashwagandha to help with like stress relief. And then just like performance supplements really around, in and around training are the kind of the key ones. So electrolytes are the main ones, like carb powders, gels, caffeine or tyrosine gels or shots if we feel that the boxer needs that at the back end of the camp. But not too many, to be honest. I'm not I'm not a massive fan of just chucking a load of supplements at a boxer. Get the diet right first and then sort of look at supplements.
Vitamin D in the winter?
Vitamin D, sorry, as well. Yeah, of course, yeah, vitamin D. You can get like sprays for that now as well, which some boxers like. Just taking like a throat spray.
Oh, wow.
And the other one in fight week where immunity is going to be, you know, reduced because you are cutting weight, dropping maybe 3-4 kilos. Your body's obviously going to be in a bit of a rundown state. So I like to get athletes to take stuff like probiotics just to help with their gut. So you say, they're taking the fibre out. They're going to have not a lot in their stomach. Just having a probiotic in there just to help with their gut health, obviously for after the weigh-in as well. Glutamine helps with that as well. Reduces the risk of illness. Zinc. So I get a lot of athletes to put like zinc or vitamin C tablets in water, just because in fight week it gives it a bit of taste. Plus, it's just protecting their immunity.
I'm glad you said that, because a lot of people do get sick from just genuinely
time.
cutting weight and things, and you don't think about it. Like, you could easily pick up a cold from it. Your immune system's shot. So yeah. So probiotics or prebiotics?
Probiotics.
Yeah,
probiotics. So that could be like a high strength one, tablet form. You know, little shots like Yakults. Just have those in fight week.
I saw you post about beetroot the other day. Beetroot juice or something?
Yeah. Again, that's one that's a bit sketchy in terms of research. I use it because I feel like if it's not going to be a disadvantage, we may as well use it. But again, the research says that the more trained someone is, so the more elite someone is, the less of a benefit it has. It has really good sort of benefits for people that aren't sort of well trained. It helps with basically like vasodilation, so it helps with like widening like the blood vessels. So essentially more blood flow can pump to the working muscles. So I've had some fighters that have taken it, like Liam Davis said it's like having some sort of like superpower. Some people, the only caveat with it is it doesn't taste great. I don't mind it. I think I've had worse shots when I've been in nightclubs. Definitely have worse shots in nightclubs. It's just a shot that you take it, you know, 3 hours before sparring. And then in fight week, we load up with it. So we load up with the nitrate stores. If someone's really cutting weight, like really low carbs and really low stuff, we don't want to chuck a beetroot shot into their stomach because it can cause a reaction. So the guys that are really harshly cutting, I tend to avoid it. With the guys that have got easier cuts, I include it in fight week. And then obviously after the weigh-in with the main meal and then on fight day as well. But that's a really good one. But some people don't like the taste. Baffles me how boxers can't have a shot but can get punched in the face. Big shout out to Lewis Frimpong, doesn't take beetroot shots because of the taste.
I don't blame him. I hate the taste of it. But I guess if the benefits are there. I'm glad actually you mentioned sleep. Obviously, sleep's so important and it goes hand in hand with your nutrition. Do you recommend naps to fighters that are training 2-3 times a day? Do you recommend them trying to have more rest in between their days, as well as obviously supplementing food, etc.?
Yeah, absolutely. If they can catch up on a bit of sleep during the day, if they train full time and they can maximize the recovery between sessions. I always think on like double training days or triple training days, the recovery between sessions is obviously key. So if you delay what you're going to eat, or you don't eat really anything, you don't rest, you go out, you walk around in the sun and then you go train again, you're not really recovering. You're not optimizing yourself for the next session. It's quite sort of like regimented, you know, sometimes being a professional boxer, because it's like train, recover, rest, fuel, train again. It's very like tick boxy. So you need to make sure you're maximizing your recovery, obviously, between those sessions. So yeah, naps are a good one just to get, even if you get 20, 30 minutes. Sometimes you can take like a stimulant, you know, caffeine before, have a caffeine nap and wake up feeling a bit refreshed. Sleeping in like a cooler room instead of napping in the sun, because if you nap in the sun outside or something, you wake up, you're going to be a bit dehydrated, you're going to be a bit groggy, your eyes are going to be a bit all over the place. So try and just sleep in a cold like room for half an hour between sessions. And it's one of those ones, isn't it? I've seen benefits from it in like big workloads where I've napped, you know, just sat and just gone to bed for like half an hour, woken up and feeling refreshed. Some people might feel groggy. So it's a case by case sort of thing, isn't it? But yeah, definitely try and maximize recovery.
Definitely. And what do you think of pre-workouts? Would you recommend a fighter taking a pre-workout before a big session, or do you advise against it?
Yeah, some fighters get like a really good benefit from it, and then some don't. So it's like a case of try it. If you feel good, then replicate it. Some fighters get like really jittery, really anxious, start having really weird thoughts like panic attacks and stuff. It's really strange, like even if they have a can of Monster or something. But yeah, sometimes you can get a really good benefit from having some pre-workout in terms of, it's mainly like caffeine and B vitamins and tyrosine, which helps with like concentration. So yeah, looking to use some pre-workouts, which obviously batch tested ones, stuff like, caffeine shots. I usually try and get the ones without any beta alanine in, just because we can't control the dosage, and then they get that itching sensation as a side effect from taking beta alanine. So just try and get caffeine only ones or espressos. Caffeine gum is incredible.
Really? Caffeine
yeah,
gum?
oh mate. It's a supplement which I started using last year because it gets into your system like instantly. So in terms of, I was finding like on fight nights in particular, so-and-so's opponent, the fight before, gets stopped. Oh, you're in the ring in 5 minutes. Oh, I thought I was going in 20. And then they've taken the caffeine, and then it ends up kicking in after their 4-round, 6-round fight. So like the caffeine gum, literally you feel a benefit from it within 10 seconds.
Wow.
It's just like you feel like your eyes start to open, you just feel alert. Because it gets into your saliva in your mouth. It gets into your bloodstream that way instead of having to process, obviously, once you've taken a shot and digest it. So we use that one quite a lot pre-fight. Or before like sessions in fight week. Yeah, really, really good from Healthspan Elite. You can get other ones from, I think, Blockheads if you look online, but I use the one from Healthspan Elite.
I'm going
Really
to try
good.
out caffeine gum.
I've got some with me if you
Sounds
want.
great.
I can
Yeah,
take some away.
definitely. Thank you. What else have we got? What's the biggest mistake you've made in your career?
Yeah, a few. Working with some individuals that I shouldn't have worked with, but it's all learning experience. Biggest mistake I've learned in my career, I guess trying to be something I'm not towards the start. Trying to just not be myself. Trying to do too much too quick as well. I think I could have gone about things a bit better, a bit more measured, a bit more relaxed. It's like when I did the first podcast as an example, I feel like I was very on edge, and this one I'm just so much more relaxed. But I think just as an individual, I've learned so much over the last few years that I'm just generally like quite relaxed now. I'm not too like stressed, and probably because I know more, so I have faith in my knowledge and ability and stuff like that, experience. So yeah, I think being too kind of like gung-ho, trying to do too much too soon, trying to grow too quick, never works. And yeah, just working with some boxers, maybe a bit higher profile, that I probably wasn't ready and shouldn't have been working with. And that's just a learning experience. So
Well, you got to make mistakes to get better anyway. And obviously, I think you're in a position now where it looks like you're pretty regimented. You've got your app, and you've got everything going pretty smoothly from the outside looking in.
yeah, I'm managing stuff a lot better and in a place where I'm just happy with it. So the third one as well is probably not being like voicing my opinion enough, kind of being scared. As a pro boxer, and he's like just weighed in, or I don't want to say like anything wrong to him, and I don't want to come across as this. It's like, nah. I could tell a boxer that I just call him out and say, you're not following this. Or I say like, if you're going to be like this, I'm just not going to work with you. I feel like I'm a lot more like, not cutthroat, but a lot more just honest and
Assertive.
open. Yeah, and I think boxers like that. I think they respect that. I think they like that harshness. They don't like people pussyfooting around them. I think they like that straight down the line honesty. I say like, mate, you're not following this, or you're not having this. Like, I know you're not. Like, who are you kidding? You're actually just making it harder for yourself. I've said it to someone before where I've said, listen, I said, if you don't want to follow this plan, I said, it's you that's going to be sat in a bath trying to cut 5 kilos, and I'm going to be playing golf somewhere. I said, I'll just remove myself from it. At the end of the day, it's going to be you left there on your own having to do it. I said, I'm just trying to help you. And if you don't want the help, I'm not going to help you. So it's there if you want it. It's there if you don't. So,
I'm guessing you prefer working with fighters that are obviously goal orientated.
Yeah.
Those that actually do what they say.
yeah,
super
and the
important,
ones that have
accountability.
got a concrete fight date as well. I've had a few fighters that have been like, I'm fighting so-and-so in November, or I've got a big fight with so-and-so coming, it's being negotiated, and I want to start now, okay? And then a week, 2 weeks goes, and then they just, fight never materialises, and I'm like, oh, well, I was expecting to get X amount of money from them. We were working towards this goal, and it's all of that energy and investment. So the concrete fight date is a big one, getting a fight date in place, and yeah.
Talk to me about some of your clients.
In terms of like, I guess like fight dates that we've got coming up, If we sort of like start from there, so we've got over the next month a big month before chill out a little bit before Christmas, and probably some more fight dates in December and the end of November. But currently, next week, Ahmed Hatim, 16th of September. I don't know when this podcast will come out, but 16th of September, he's fighting for English title eliminator at lightweight. So 5-0, literally skipped Southern Area, just going straight in for an English title eliminator. 10 rounds at York Hall, part of the Evolve Elite stable, Andy Gill. Week after, we're at York Hall again. Brad Paul's English middleweight title against Mitchell Frierson. Lewis Frimpong, same night, featherweight English title. Yazzie Elgena, Southern Area, super lightweight title. And I've got another client of mine, Billy Stanbury's boxing on that same card. So we've got 4 on that show, 3 titles. Obviously, Joel's boxing at Ezra Taylor on the Frank Warren BT Sport card. I think it's Wembley Arena. Yeah, Wembley.
Yeah, when's that?
23rd, so same night.
Mm-hmm.
And then Ricky Summers, Anthony Yard as well. Then week after, we've got Kieran Conway boxing Linus Adofia.
Are you working with Kieran?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, working with Kieran.
He's a good boxer. I like Kieran.
Yeah, proper nice guy. They're all nice from that gym up there at Shoebox.
How long have you been working with Kieran for?
Started this camp, so I work with a guy, Nico Michael, who's started working with me when he turned over. Built a really, really good relationship with him. We've got a really, really good relationship. And then he said just banging on at Kieran like every camp, like, you need to work with Jack. And then started working with him for this fight. Martin, obviously the day before, up in Sheffield, so be a weekend away in Sheffield. He's got that WBA against Reece Mould. Weekend after, Mikey Webber-Kane's got that Southern Area against Robert Caswell at York Hall, super featherweight. A couple of other smaller hall fighters dotted around 7th, 14th, 21st of October. Started working with Harley Ben as well. He's boxing on the 21st of October on that Sky Sports show.
Who's that against?
Michael Hennessy Jr.
Okay, yeah, that's a tough fight.
Yeah, so I started working with Joe Laws, and he was supposed to fight Harley. Fight's not materialised.
Why is that?
I think Joe's going down a different route, doing some other stuff in his life. So Harley reached out to me before, and he was like, "Oh, I was actually going to get you on board, but Joe sort of got you first." So I was like, "I feel like I feel like you're both chasing a girl, sort of thing." So
I think you said to me before, how would you feel about working? If there were 2 fighters going against each other,
I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Is the nuts and bolts. So we spoke about it. There's some S&C coaches out there, or nutritionists. It wouldn't happen with a boxing coach, obviously, but they work with the same the boxers that are fighting each other. So they're doing the weight cuts and they're doing the strength training. I was like, how can you strength train someone to be more powerful, to beat up someone that you're also strength training? It doesn't make any sense, and there's no winner from that situation. You might get
one of them's going to win, so at least he's going to have a winner.
That's true. One of them's going to win, but
yeah.
Also you don't want to promote that. So if that one fighter wins by knockout, you can't share the knockout because your mate's just been knocked out. Mm-hmm. You get a little bit of money from it, but money comes and goes. You're always going to get money from whatever job you do. So park the money for a second. You're working with 2 people, and if you really care about someone, you're definitely going to care about someone a little bit more than the other. You can't have. You're definitely going to put more energy into one because it's just the one you get on with and click better with.
Yeah, and it's not like it's a couple football teams having fun. You've got 2 guys in the ring beating each other up, and conflict of interest. Yeah, it's a big.
You could be sneaky and get on one with one better, take the money from another one and rehydrate the other one better. And it just opens a can of worms. It's never going to be good. So I've always said if that happens, I'd probably pick the one I've worked with longer or got a better relationship, and that's just how it is. And then pick things back up after they box each other.
What's the biggest weight cut you've ever done with someone? What's the biggest weight cut in a camp?
Biggest weight cut? Ooh, good question. In terms of from the start to the end, I'd probably say it probably is Martin McDonough. I'd say it's probably the biggest cut we've had to do that first.
How many
fight,
kilos?
It was like 75 down to 61.2.
So 14 kilos in a camp.
Like 10 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's what, 1.4 kilos a week, if you were to
divide it. Yeah.
Wow.
That's probably the biggest one. And then following on from that, we've got Lewis Ritson, who I'm working with. He's going to be boxing in November, starting November time. That's going to be a show that's going to be announced soon. And then, yeah, just waiting on end of November, December dates, and then it's Christmas, and then we do it all again next year.
Brilliant. So the last question, how can someone sign up to work with you?
At the moment, drop me a message on Instagram. We'll have a chat and see if we're a good fit. That's the kind of main thing for me before we even start talking about anything else. It's just, would we be a good fit to work together? Jump on a call and then just go from there. Like I said, I'm pretty busy at the moment, so I'm a bit selective who I'm working with. So just got to be obviously really, really motivated to achieve their goals and want to obviously do well. It's the main thing. Don't just say it. Don't just do it because it looks good to have a nutritionist. I'm not about that. I don't want to do that. So if anyone wants to work one-to-one together, we've got to have a concrete goal and got to want to achieve great things.
Brilliant. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on, Jack. I've learned so much as well this podcast, so I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you too, man. Thanks for having me on again. We have to do a trilogy.